All right, everyone, thanks for joining me today. Okay, so we've got a topic that we've got to talk about, and it's one that doesn't get a lot of media coverage. And I want to discuss this. It has to do with European forces and how and the sins and atrocities they commit against our people when they are stationed in their so-called bases in Africa. We're seeing a lot of these exposure come out ever since the coups occurred in Mali, Niger, Burkina Faso, where the leaders over there drove out foreign military troops in their country. This story that I'm about to discuss with you all today is the atrocities that British soldiers have been committing in Kenya, those who are stationed in Kenya in the so-called military base. And this is not just British soldiers. This is all foreign soldiers stationed in Africa, whether they're U.S. forces, whether they are French forces. These are some things that they are doing, and these things are coming out. But we're going to focus on the British soldiers today. So the story I'm going to cover today is one that CNN covered, and I have to give them kudos for it. But it's one that didn't get a lot of mainstream exposure, which is that British forces are accused of raping Kenyan women when they're stationed over there, raping them and abandoning the children they father with these women when they are over there. They treat our people and our women badly. Now, you might say that this is something that's just happening recently. No, this has been going on all the way back to the 50s. The British government know about this, but they have not done anything about it. They've been doing lip service by telling our people and the women who are bringing up these accusations against their military soldiers who are in Kenya, raping their women, forcing them against their will and raping them. And they're just coming out with PR and lip service. Oh, we're going to look into this, we're going to look into this, and they never do anything. This has been happening since the 50s, all the way back in the 50s. I want you to listen to this coverage by CNN, which again, I have to give them kudos for it. But again, I also have to kind of withhold as much kudos that I give them, because while they're covering the one against the British soldier, I haven't seen them cover the one against the U.S. soldiers, because the U.S. soldiers stationed in these places are also doing the same thing. But nonetheless, we're going to focus on the coverage against the British soldiers today, because I think this is a despicable act. I think this is a despicable behavior that we're now learning about as a result of all these so-called military bases that is foreign entities in Europe and the West somehow bully their way into Africa to go plant bases in those countries under the guise that they're teaching African soldiers military tactics, defense tactics, and all that nonsense. But while they're there, they're raping our women, inflicting them with diseases, creating children, unborn kids, and abandoning those people. Right? Acts that if you ever did in your own country, you will be liable for that. You will face judgment for that. To father children and abandon them is a no-no in their country. But they go to our people in our countries, and they not only have children with these women, they are raping these women. Okay, so that is important to highlight. These are not consensual relationship, right? These are rape. They are raping these women, forcing them against their will. And then when these women get pregnant, they abandon them and then move on with their lives. So I want you to take a look at this coverage and have a good conversation about it.
She is just 17, but Marian lives alone in this single-room house, a mixed-race girl in rural Kenya where nobody looks like her.
They actually call me poor white girl. I don't know why they call me poor white girl. They always say, why are you here? Just look for a connection that you will go to your own people. You don't belong in here.
Marian's mother, Lydia Juma, was among hundreds of women who accused soldiers from the British Army Training Unit Kenya, Batuk, of rape. She was interviewed in this 2011 documentary.
Because in our tribe, we can't report that thing. It's a big shame if you go and say that you have been raped.
Lydia Juma died 2 years after that interview, and Marian has never met her father. She has to fend for herself in a society that ostracizes her.
You have not lost hope of finding your father someday?
No, I've never lost hope.
Mixed-race children keep being born in the remote villages where the British Army trains in Kenya. Generika Namoru says she was in a consensual relationship with a British soldier while she worked at their base, but she claims he has never supported her since she gave birth.
I'm a woman with a white child. It's not easy for my family, especially because a child is expensive. She's suffering for no good reason.
So you just want him to take responsibility for his daughter?
Yeah, nothing else. For him, I want him to take care of the education, health.
Have you ever received a cent from him since she was born?
I've never received any cent.
Generika is jobless and says she has unsuccessfully tried to petition local authorities and the British Army to find her ex-boyfriend. The British High Commission told CNN it cooperates with local child support authorities in paternity claims. But the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights says the UK government has made no effort to hold soldiers accountable in such cases.
These children really...
Of course not. Of course they're not going to hold their people, because to them, those Africans are animals. Who cares? This has been going on as far back as the 50s. This has been going on as far back as the 50s. Complaints have been coming on up against the British soldier. And the British government, year after year, says, oh, we'll look into it. We'll look into it, we'll look into it. But they never do, because they don't care. They know their people are doing this, but they don't care.
They deserve British citizenship. They're British kids. Their fathers were British.
So the British government is just not interested in resolving these cases?
We don't think they are interested. We call it BBBB, British boys behaving badly.
The UK pays Kenya about $400,000 a year to allow up to 10,000 British soldiers to train in the country. Kenya renewed the 5-year deal in 2021 despite opposition from some local groups, lawmakers, and
the idea that our people and the leaders that we put in place will allow foreign entities in our countries, right, to do so-called training, that to me is one that I will never understand. That to me, I will never understand it. Because you will never find any African soldier in any one of these countries, whether it's England, whether it is the United States, whether it is France, whether it is Italy, Germany, you will never find any African base in any one of these places talking about we want to share intelligence, and you will never find it. But our own leaders, whom we elect in positions in our countries in Africa to protect our sovereign rights, to protect the borders of our countries, to keep our citizens safe, those types of things, they expose their citizens to foreign entities who come into those countries and mutilate their women, mutilate our people. These people come in, rape our women, pass diseases onto them, because these soldiers, believe it or not, they're all over the place. They fly and fly in anywhere. One day they're in Honduras, the next thing they're in Germany, the next thing they're doing, they're having a free-for-all with many women. Catch something in one of those places, they go to Africa, and they pass it on to our women and spread diseases. And our own leaders in Africa, whom we have entrusted the well-being and our own lives into their care, to ensure that they uphold their mandate, which is to protect the lives of their citizens and those whom they lead, expose their countries to these types of animals who go there and rape their women and leave and have fatherless children, add to the suffering of those places. That to me is despicable.
human rights defenders.
We have also had cases where these women and people who have reported have been intimidated. So there is a conspiracy to make sure that justice does not happen for these women.
Allegations of rape and other crimes, including murder, by British soldiers in Kenya date back to the 1950s. These elderly women accused Batuk officers of rape in the 70s and 80s in a landmark case in London over 20 years ago. Ntoye Lenkanan says she was one of them.
I was going to fetch water when I was ambushed by a group of British soldiers who were hiding in the grass near the river. One of them grabbed me and raped me.
In 2007, Britain's Ministry of Defense dismissed over 2,000 claims of rape from mostly Maasai and Samburu women, saying, quote, there was no...
Think about that. They dismissed over 2,000 complaints of rape. 2,000. They didn't find one. According to them, to be credible, they dismissed over 2,000. Now, what does that tell you? That'll tell you that the British government is complicit in the evil that's going on. And these are the same ones that want to accuse us of human rights violation, mutilation against women. These are the same British people that will say Africans mistreat women. Africans violate the rights of women. Africans don't respect the rights of women. These are the same ones that will preach down the aisle to us about human rights abuses. But here you go. Their own citizens committing the worst atrocities against our women. And they dismiss over 2,000 claims and accusations.
Reliable evidence to support any single allegation. The government in Nairobi lost the case files without explanation. A Royal Military Police investigation concluded that most of the Kenyan evidence appeared to have been fabricated. One Kenyan official called it a cover-up. They did not conduct DNA tests on any of the 69 mixed-race children alleged to have been born as a result of rape by British soldiers. Lawyer Kelvin Kubai is working to reintroduce the case in Kenyan courts. 17-year-old Marian will be the lead plaintiff, taking up a fight her mother didn't win in her lifetime.
It is traumatic and it's psychologically disturbing to people like Marion and many others who continue to see the British training amidst them with all these unresolved trauma and historical injustices.
Larry Medowo, CNN, Nanyuki, Kenya.
Most people don't understand what's happening when they see these soldiers in their country. It is obviously a known thing, and I've talked about this on my program, how they are stealing our minerals under the guise of combating terrorism. That's how they come in with this. They come in with these guys that we're going to help you combat the terrorist organization, right? But what they don't tell people is that they created the insurgencies and the terrorist organizations which are in largely these countries. They fund them and they create them to create a destabilization so they can now go into these countries under the guise of combating terrorism. So you can go in there and they, in exchange of so-called training, begin stealing the mineral resources of those countries. That part we've all come to know now, right? The part that they don't tell you about is what's happening, this news that I'm covering right now, is that while they're there, they're raping our women. They're mutilating our women. They're bringing diseases upon our women. You have children without fathers, which is burdening the economy. See, in their country, right? In the United States, in England, all of that. They have provisions for children whose father is either passed on or who are deadbeat fathers, who aren't taking care of the kids. The government provides for those women to take care of those children. We have child support in the West to ensure that any man who fathers a child has to pay child support to the woman to take care of that baby. Because you know why? It's a burden on society when you have a child that doesn't have a father supporting that child. It's a burden because the state has to take care of that. So they'll make sure that they find the father. That's what the child support thing is. Of course, there's abuse with that, but that's what it's intended to do. But either way, their country ensures that women who have children and they're not getting support from the man, they make sure that that doesn't happen in their country. But they go to our country and they do the opposite of that. These types of crime, rape, is a no-no in the West. You rape somebody in the West and let them find you, you're going to go to jail for 20 plus years. It's a no-no. These are heinous crimes in both the West and Europe that you ain't getting away from. If you ever were caught, or even if, forget being caught raping somebody, that's bad enough. If there's any allegation against you of rape, that is one that's already destroyed your life. Don't worry about it. It's a done deal for you. They don't play with that in their country. But then there are allegations against their own citizens of rape in those countries. They don't give a damn. As far as they're concerned, these women are lying about it. As far as they're concerned, all those over 2,000 cases brought against their citizens, it's all a lie. You saw them dismiss those cases. It's no big deal. And this has been going on all the way since the 1950s. So the British government, along with the monarchy, who covered this whole thing up, are telling us that our women have been lying since the 50s. Is that what they want us to believe? That somehow their men are righteous in these places, men who are stationed, right, who have to be gone a year plus, somehow are absolved. They could never do these things. But the women in those countries, in this Africa, are lying. That's exactly what they're telling us. But of course not. They know this. And so this is the part that really pisses me off, is that our leaders who we elect in positions in Africa, who have sold our countries to the West, under the guise of these so-called combat terrorism, let me tell you what these people go there to do. They're gathering intelligence against that country. When they are in Kenya, Ghana, and many of these places that have military bases stationed, these foreign entities are gathering intelligence, right, against that country. It has nothing to do with them combating any terrorism, which is why the leaders of Mali, Burkina Faso, Niger, these ones who had military bases in their country, learned that these people are not doing any, and these are soldiers. And think about it for a second. These are soldiers who are working with these people, and they're like, these people are not doing anything. They're lying to us, which is why when they took over those countries in a coup, they forced them out of their country because they are aware. These leaders were aware of the atrocities that was being committed in their countries under the guise of this fighting terrorism. And the leaders which they deposed from those positions knew about it and they covered a blind eye to it. It's one of the reasons why they took that place in the coups. Those coups happened and they then forced them, get out of our country. Get out of our country. And this is the part that doesn't get covered. And the part that really upsets me with this whole story, right, is one, we have to be mad and upset at these foreign entities who go to Africa and impose this sinful act on our people. But the bigger blame got to go to those puppet leaders in Africa who have exposed their countries, right? Who have exposed their countries to these types of people. They've broken down the security barriers of their country. They've made their country vulnerable. And that is a sad thing. That the people that suffer the most in that whole thing are the women in those countries and children in those countries. You heard in that coverage that somehow some of these women get found dead all of a sudden. They also all of a sudden get found dead. So there's obviously death that occur in these places, right? And it gets no big deal. They're Africans, who cares? They're animals, who cares? No one cares, because the Kenyan government, as well as these African countries that get money, They are getting like you saw their cover. 400,000 is what it takes. It's all it takes to close a blind eye to rape, murder, atrocities against your own people. $400,000 a year is all it takes. $400,000 a year is all the leaders of these countries need to have to open up their borders and allow these foreign entities into their countries to collect intelligence against their own country, right? Rape their women, right? Bring diseases in those countries, burden the economy, leave the place devastated. On top of all of that, right? The insurgencies that they supposedly came to combat, they don't do nothing about it. Of course, they were not there for that. They were not there for all of that. Because like I said in my previous videos, tell me where any of these foreign forces have gone to and they truly solved the insurgency problem. You tell me, you leave it in the comment section. You tell me where. That they've actually gone to and they've actually reduced the number of terrorism in that places. No, there's no place, none whatsoever. They didn't do it in Afghanistan. They couldn't fight in Afghanistan. They were there for over 20 years. They got their asses handed over to them. They couldn't do it over there. Tongo in Niger. We saw what happened in Tongo in Niger. They were supposed to go over there, the little town outside of Niger. Nothing. The insurgency group had their asses handed to them. These are the things they create, and they can't even fight because they're not there for that. They also won in Mali, one in Burkina Faso. They didn't do anything, which is why the leaders over there told them, you need to get out of our country. Because what they are there for is to steal our mineral resources, which our leaders are gladly giving away, and leaving our countries in abject poverty. That's what's going on. This is the real news here that you're not getting anywhere. Africa really needs, and I pray that the Almighty will raise up people like these three leaders who have saved their countries from the clutches and from the abuse of these foreign invaders in their land. But of course, they're going to find puppets who are going to sell out to undermine these countries. And it's our job to pray for them, to expose this, and to make sure that we uphold these good men who are standing strong and firm against these foreign entities because they know the battles they're up against. They know the battles they're up against. Anyway, thank you all for watching. Please like this video, share the content, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye.
Det finns ingen annan där som kan stå här by my side, oh why. Sättet du rör på det får mig att dö för dig baby. För de här yardis, de vill ju bara dra ner oss. Men du är fett och vanlig. På det jag lägger all min tid och jag vill ha det. Du får mig känna safety. Det kan nog leda baby. Och jag kommer aldrig